this week's Cruise Chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Guillaume, and Guillaume is from Oceania Cruises. And today we're going to be covering some amazing things. We're going to be looking at their brand new ship, as well as some itineraries and some trends. So over to you.
Hi, yeah, so thank you so much for inviting me on for this chat. It's great. And obviously, as you can see, we've got kind of the festive theme going on there as well. We always do a really fantastic job of welcoming everybody on board for the holidays. Actually, this was my own personal photograph here.
Oh, wow.
I was lucky enough to be on board a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And obviously, I mean, things have kind of changed kind of pretty drastically in the last couple of years, but that's one thing that we always kind of really deliver on, is that our guests always think we do a great, fantastic job for welcoming everybody on for the holidays. So
it's beautifully decorated. My goodness, wow.
Yeah,
I think I want them to come to my house and do decorations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's what a great team.
Yeah, so yeah, today I'd like to kind of discuss maybe kind of some of the trends that we've been seeing in the last little while. I specifically kind of and around cruising and the whole aspect of the marketplace, but also in terms of how that kind of relates to Oceania and what we've been doing in that regard as well. Definitely the biggest trend is small ships, really. That's one thing that we have seen more than anything over and above in the last kind of 12 months, is that there's been a really big trend towards small ship sailing. You know, I've been talking to quite a few different guests recently, actually, and there's been a bit of a common theme in that. You know, a lot of guests, they still kind of want to do the cruising aspect of things, but maybe kind of gone are the days of them being on a vessel of 3,000 or 4,000 passengers. They're kind of looking for slightly more manageable numbers when it comes to them going sailing, and definitely that's one thing that we're able to provide at Oceania. We have 6 ships in our fleet entirely. We've got 4 that are just at 684 passengers, so definitely like a very manageable number to get you into that the heart of that destination, and you know, avoid any lineups or any queues or anything like that.
And is that ship at full capacity, or is it still at limited capacity at this
time? You know what, we still we're going to be launching our very first regatta class ship just before Christmas time. So that one, the very first couple of sailings that we're going to be doing, they're going to be at a slightly lower capacity. But then actually, again, this is going to kind of talk into some of the trends that we're seeing. When we reach into 2022, those are going to be at 100% capacity as well. We just launched what we call our Oceania vessels. So this is actually one of them in the background here. So we've got the Marina and the Riviera. So they're at 1,250 guests. We launched the Marina back in August of this year. So that was at reduced capacity, and it took us, you know, just a few cruises just to figure out, you know, how we were doing, and you know, placing in our protocols, you know, getting our crew back up to speed as well. You know, it's been almost 2 years for a lot of them that they hadn't been on board, and then we launched the Riviera back in November as well. But those are both going to be up at full capacity for 2022 as well. And that kind of leads into our next trend. What we've been seeing is that you know, I have a lot of guests and advisors come back to me asking, you know, oh, you know, I see there's an awful lot on wait lists for 2022. Is that because you've got reduced capacity? And actually, no, it's not. We're actually, you know, well, not fully booked, but on a lot of the sailings, you'll see a lot of wait lists happening there, and that's where we're really trending at capacity. And that's probably the second biggest trend we've seen in 2021 into 22, is that people are booking further out than ever before. You know, it doesn't take an awful lot of guests to fill us up, really. I mean, you know, at 684 passengers, that's only 340 odd couples worldwide that it takes to fill up one vessel, right? So those vessels can get full very, very quickly. And you know, definitely there's one thing that to be said, you know, I know a lot of people are still kind of contemplating about going cruises. They're still wanting to figure out their own priorities, which we're absolutely fine with. You know, we want to make sure people are at that comfort level. But one thing that you kind of have to think with is you got to think with your 2 year ahead head on.
Yeah.
And that you know, if you're maybe not completely comfortable, are you going to be comfortable in 2 years time? Because generally that's a lot of our sailings are looking that people are booking almost that far in advance. You know, typically we tend to have kind of booking windows where guests are looking for cruises maybe anywhere kind of, you know, pre-pandemic that was anywhere from like 8 to 10 months out in advance. Post-pandemic, that's gone up from like 18 to 24 months in advance. It's quite incredible that people are really got their ducks in a row. What can I say?
Yeah, goodness. I mean, it's interesting to look at your calendar and say, oh, what am I doing at the end of 2023? But it's so important to block that space and to say, you know what, I'm going to go away that week. Let's just do it now. And then as it gets closer, you know that you got not only the best rate, but you're on the itinerary, which is the most important part. And you get your pick of where your stateroom is going to be. So those are all,
that's
you know,
really
important.
it, right? You know, people want to have that exact desired situation, right? And the good thing is that, you know, if plans change, then fine. You know, that's the good thing too, is that you know, if you do put a deposit down, that deposit isn't at risk until, you know, at very most like 6 months in advance. Generally, it's only about 3 months in advance. So if those plans change, you have that absolute complete flexibility through Oceania. The nice thing as well, you know, because we're slightly more inclusive as a cruise line, as part of our general offer through Life, so that's our general offer over all our sailings, you actually get airfare included as part of the cost of your cruise. So even if you decide to deposit, that's your airfare locked in for that sailing as well. So you don't, you know, that's not even at risk as well, because I know often, you know, if you're looking at booking flights, you know, a year in advance, to get some of those really fantastic prices, they're quite restrictive with their rates. But if you lock it in with Oceania, that's you know, it's, you have the flexibility where if you do want to change those plans, then you're not locked into that airfare either. You know, it's all completely flexible through us as well. So
it's so hard to know what the rates will be 2 years from now, but you guys have locked in your set rate, and it is what it is. Yeah, you
exactly,
don't worry
right.
about fluctuations.
We work pretty closely with a lot of different airlines, you know, all the major ones essentially, to kind of get you those good routes and you know, the minimal layovers, and you know, not getting you on milk runs or anything along those lines. So
definitely.
definitely. So I mean, that's definitely some of the biggest trends. And even so much so, we've kind of had to change some of our strategies in terms of how we're putting out our deployment for next year. Generally, what we would normally do is that we'd launch our around the world sailing in January for 2 years in advance. So in January, you're going to see our 2024 around the world itinerary come out. Now, previously, what we would normally tend to do is we'd put out that around the world sailing. We'd have it standalone to sell for roughly about 2 or 3 months. And then as part of that, about 2 or 3 months later, we would then split that up into different segments for around the world. So our around the world is 180 days, and obviously not everybody can take 180 days off at one time. So we would split those up into smaller segments, you know, into maybe like 30 or 40 days, sometimes as short as like 20. And then the people who weren't able to do quite as much as the 180 days were able to book into that. Now, last year that completely changed. We launched our 180-day around the world cruise in January of 2021, sold out within 1 day for the full 180 days. We had such a pent-up demand from guests that were wanting to do around the world for 2023 that completely sold out. So we didn't have those segments to be available to our guests. So for our 2024 around the world cruise, it's going to probably fall in a similar bracket where we're not going to be able to do those segments. So previously, what we would normally have done as well is then we would have launched our exotic sailings roughly kind of into May, springtime-ish, for the remainder of 2024. But now what we're going to actually do in May is that we're going to not only launch our exotic itineraries, but we're going to launch all our America itineraries and our European itineraries in May, all in one swoop. So basically, come May of this year, we're going to
A
have
lot.
all of our 2024
Mhm.
itineraries available for our guests, which is
Great.
fantastic. You know, and then the great thing with that is that there's an awful lot of capacity out there for our guests to choose from. But in addition, we also launched our newest vessel, the Oceania Vista, which is a 1,200 passenger vessel
Mhm.
in September of this year. So we actually have one additional ship to be able to play with as well. So that's going to increase our capacity over and above by another, I think, 23%. So you're going to have a lot to play with. And I know it's funny because a lot of guests are like, oh well, when should we really be booking Oceania? And really, it's, if you can do it as far in advance as possible, it's the best time for you to book at Oceania as well.
Yeah.
The reason for that is that we actually will look at our itineraries on a quarterly basis. And for any itinerary that's selling pretty well, at the end of the quarter, we will actually increase the costs on our sailing. So the closer you get to our sailing, generally the more expensive it's going to be. So definitely kind of thinking about it being booking in advance, you're going to get those best offers and you're going to get those best pricing as well. And the good thing is we protect that too. So, you know, even if there's all of a sudden there's a slight change on one of the sailings that we all of a sudden there's huge groups cancelled on it and we need to get some tactical pricing out, as they call it in the industry. If you come across that, we will honor that price difference back to the guest as well. So there's no risk for the guest booking in advance, as mentioned before.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Yeah, because really you're not out anything. As you said, you know, the deposit is protected and
Yep.
you're locking yourself in. And if the prices keep going up, why not do it early? That's wonderful.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that kind of leads into the next biggest trend for this year,
Yep.
and that was the launch of the Oceania Vista. And that's going to be our newest ship. It's going to be launching in the spring of 2023. So it's got an inaugural season of roughly around about 6 months of different types of sailings. And it set an absolute record-setting day for us back in September, which again, that kind of pent up demand. The brand new ship as well. If you have the opportunity to see it, you can jump, you know, speak to Kathleen about getting you some beautiful imagery about that. But you can check out, there's a website called oceanianext.com that outlines all the specifics in regards to that beautiful vessel. And again, it kind of tied in all the different trends that we've been seeing in terms of the small ships, in terms of people booking out in advance, in terms of some of longer sailings as well, that people have really honed in on the interest. And especially a lot of new to brand guests have seen the Oceania Vista. They've seen the absolutely stunning decor on board that vessel. It's just absolutely stunning in terms of the different amenities that are available on board, different social spaces that you see on board as well. I kind of have a little chuckle with myself in that. When it was launched, I was going through a renovation of my house, and my wife was absolutely sick of me showing her different pictures of the ship to be like, hey, this is a really neat idea for a bathroom. Hey, did we think about this for the living room? You know, so yeah, it's just a stunning vessel, and really a lot of new to brand guests have kind of seen that, and that they've honed in on that as well. So it was a very special day for us at Oceania when we launched her. So it's yeah, I hope some of you might be able to have a little bit of an interest and
do you
speak to
know off the
Kathleen.
top of your head where she sails to a lot of the places, like certain
Yeah, so
itineraries?
the inaugural itineraries are going to start out of the Mediterranean.
Okay.
So it's going to have some really nice Mediterranean sailings. Specifically, I know because I helped out somebody in regards to a pretty large group that they've got this fantastic itinerary that starts out of Athens, that goes into the Holy Land and finishes up in Rome. It's like a 14-day sailing that's really, it's got like a lot of historical interest in there, and you know, visiting some really interesting sites in the Middle East and in Israel and into Egypt there as well.
Nice.
Afterwards, it's going to go transatlantic. So we're going to take her through to New York, and we're going to go up to Montreal with her. which is going to be fantastic to see her in Canada.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, we're going to take her down to Miami. I think we actually have a couple of days in there where we're probably going to have, you know, show her off to kind of the trade, and yeah, to some lucky people.
Yeah, New
And
York's only 6 hours away. I could be
exactly,
there.
yeah. So we're gonna do some really interesting things with her there.
Mhm.
We'll have a Panama sailing, and then
Wow.
it'll finish up on the west coast there, and then from there, I'm not exactly sure where she's going to go from. That's the end of the inaugural
Wow.
season for her. So yeah,
That sounds wonderful.
yeah, it's beautiful itineraries there.
Amazing. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and yeah, we're just you know, it's a very exciting time for us at Oceania. Definitely, you know, the launch of the World Cruise coming up is going to be always keeps us really busy. You know, the launch of those new itineraries are always going to keep us busy. And definitely, I would say the last trend that we've really seen in this year is that guests, obviously, they've not had the ability to travel in the last couple of years. So one thing that we've seen is guests like booking longer sailings than ever before. You know, typically if we had guests where they were maybe taking some of those 2-week sailings, now they're looking at 20, 30, 40 days. You know, even some going up their full world 180-day cruise. So yeah, those guests definitely looking for longer sailings more than ever before as well. So and really one thing that's really interesting with the Oceania cruises as well is that we have a lot of guests that'll do a back-to-back cruise, where the nice thing with Oceania is that because we're kind of visiting so many different destinations, even if you're doing a back-to-back, even to back cruise, you might not even have a repeat of one in port, because we're traveling to so many different types of destinations, to you know, really inspire the guests into that kind of next place to go to. So that's where people really can take advantage, and you can really do some really interesting things when you do those back-to-backs. And you know,
Yeah,
Kathleen,
absolutely.
obviously you're there to help out and suggesting
Yes.
some of those. So yeah, those we've been seeing guests do that more often than not as well. So yeah.
And I think too, with a lot of jobs becoming remote, there's no reason that you can't, you know, do your job with the Wi-Fi and be able to do that, and then still be able to explore and see the world as
And
well.
then really that's where we've seen a lot of people do things too as well, because again, Wi-Fi is an inclusion with us as well. So we have seen some guests have that ability to work remotely as well. So
Yeah. I mean, what's
yeah,
better than
it's
sitting out on your terrace or your balcony and looking out and watching the sunset as you're, you know, finishing a report kind of thing. So that would be
exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only we could all take advantage of
I
that.
know. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, I'm not sure my clients would appreciate calling me and going, "Oh, sorry, I'm busy right now looking at the sunset." But yeah, no, that's fabulous. So wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
So I mean, really, that's kind of us in a nutshell. For
mhm.
definitely for this year, next year. You know, keep an eye out for those different itineraries coming through. We've had some really nice sales recently as well. You'll usually see some great sales in and around about the holidays. We've
Yes.
done a few different upgrade sales this year as well, which
Mhm.
again, a lot of those new to brand guests have had a really big interest in, and that. You know, if when you're getting a veranda for an ocean view price, you know,
Mhm.
maybe if you're kind of accustomed to one cruise line and you're accustomed to being in that veranda, when you're getting an ocean view pricing with us over and above, it makes that makes it a very interesting proposition as well. So
Yeah, it's a sweet
keep our
deal.
eye out for those as well.
Yeah, fabulous. Wonderful. Yes. Well, thank you so much for putting all that together. That was really great. I
Oh,
appreciate
you're
just
very
sitting and
welcome.
chatting with you about everything that's up and coming, and I greatly appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you, Kathleen, and yeah, you know, wishing everybody you know, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hope you have the best time, and you know, wishing everybody be keeping safe as well over the holiday time.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this week's cruise chat with Guillaume. It was really nice to have that time to interact and to discuss and to talk about all the new trends that he's seeing. Talk about that world cruise. I mean, that would be just fabulous. It would be so nice to see that. And just to, you know, have a nice discussion about the state of the industry and where things are at with Oceania. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with Azamara, and I really do resonate with Azamara's brand as well. I really like the Explore Deeper. I love how a lot of the new smaller ships are just staying longer in port, and it's really, really neat to see. I know all you guys who tune in frequently know I say very often, I'm not a tourist, I'm a traveler. And that is really the way that things are going with a lot of the cruise lines, especially the small ship cruise lines. They're doing more immersive experiences, longer stays, some overnights, just amazing cruises. It's fabulous. Thank you so much for watching, as I said. And every week, you should subscribe to our channel because every single week I put out a brand new video. And usually on Thursdays, sometimes things happen and I'm late. But this way, you don't need to wait for me to announce it on Facebook. If you're subscribed, you'll see it right away. I hope everybody has a great week and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.